Curious or confused about skincare? The Inky List are here to give you simple answers on the right ingredients for your skin. For personalized advice on your skincare questions or skincare needs in your AM or PM routine, we have skincare advisors ready to chat with you at #AskInky 24/7, 365 days via live chat at theinkylist.com or DM on social at The Inky List. The Inky List believe that knowledge powers change. #AskInky now to achieve your skincare goals.
Democracy is precious. Democracy is fragile. And at this hour, my friends, democracy has prevailed.
The only wrong thing to say is to say nothing.
Avoiding catastrophic climate breakdown is to do the seemingly impossible.
We will go into a national lockdown, which is tough enough.
And yet that is what we have to do.
With every jab that goes into
George
our arms,
Floyd's life mattered, and Breonna Taylor's life mattered, and Philando Castile's life mattered, and Tamir Rice's life mattered.
So what's the Prime Minister going to do about it?
Hello and welcome to the weekly news in brief from Sherlock's. It's Thursday the 8th of April and here are your main stories this week. The Prime Minister has confirmed plans to ease lockdown will go ahead next week, with non-essential shops, pub gardens and hairdressers set to reopen across England from Monday. At a Number 10 briefing this week, Boris Johnson said there was nothing in the present data to suggest the country would need to deviate from the government's lockdown roadmap. As a result, the next stage of lockdown easing will go ahead from the 12th of April. Shops, gyms, zoos, theme parks and libraries can reopen, and restaurants and pubs can start serving customers outdoors. Up to 15 guests will be allowed to attend weddings, and care home residents can have 2 regular visitors. According to Johnson, so-called vaccine passports will not be used in the reopening of shops and other venues next week. However, he did describe COVID certificates as a sensible way of reopening the country safely. Plans for the passports remain in the pipeline, and it is unclear what form any such certification will take. However, their potential use has been met with opposition from a large number of MPs, including at least 40 Conservatives. The Labour Party has warned that any form of COVID certification would act as an extra burden on businesses as they attempt to recover from the pandemic. In terms of travel, the government has pointed out that COVID certification, including proof of a negative test, is already part of moving safely across borders. Ministers say they expect this system to continue and are looking into ways in which it can be digitised. However, at present, holidays abroad remain illegal. On Monday, Johnson said it was too soon for the government to give a clear date from which foreign holidays could resume. He has advised people not to book summer breaks overseas until the picture is clearer, and said virus variants and lagging vaccination schemes in other countries could mean the ban on international travel stays in place beyond the 17th of May. Meanwhile, the UK's medical regulator has announced that those aged 18 to 30 will be offered an alternative to the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine due to evidence linking the jab to rare blood clots. Publishing its review into the issue on Wednesday, the UK's medical regulator, the MHRA, said 79 people in the UK had had the rare blood clots, 19 of whom died, out of 20 million Oxford jabs administered. While the regulator said the cases were not proof the jab caused the clots, it did suggest the link between the two was getting firmer. Overall, the benefits of the vaccine still significantly outweigh any risks for the vast majority of people. However, this balance is less apparent in younger people as they face fewer health risks from COVID-19. As a result, the MHRA has concluded that under 30s who are healthy and not at high risk of COVID should be offered an alternative jab where possible. On Wednesday, a 24-year-old carer from Carmarthenshire became the first person in the UK to receive the Moderna vaccine. The US-made jab is the third to be added to British stocks, with Phase 3 testing indicating it has 100% efficacy against severe cases of COVID-19. Hospitals in Wales are the first to have administered the jab, and ministers say they expect the rollout to be extended across the rest of the UK in the next few days. In UK news, more than 40 police officers have been injured in ongoing violence in Northern Ireland, according to the police service. As the unrest entered its 6th night on Wednesday, the police service of Northern Ireland said some officers had suffered career-impacting injuries. At least 10 arrests have been made so far. Some have blamed the disorder on the Public Prosecution Service's decision not to prosecute people who attended a large-scale funeral for Republican Bobby Storey last year. However, it is likely the disturbances are the result of wider loyalist frustrations, including those over the Brexit deal's Northern Ireland Protocol. In attacks on Wednesday night, petrol bombs were thrown at officers in Carrickfergus and a bus was hijacked and set on fire in Belfast. Irish leader Micheál Martin has condemned the attacks and called for all sides to work together to restore calm. The Stormont Assembly is expected to be recalled to discuss the violence today. Extinction Rebellion co-founder Gail Bradbrook has told reporters, as the suffragette said, better broken windows than broken promises, after smashing the windows of a Barclays Bank branch in her hometown of Stroud. The action comes as the group escalates its Money Rebellion campaign with a series of direct action protests aimed at drawing attention to the financial sector's role in the climate crisis. It follows a recent report showing the world's 60 biggest banks have provided £2.75 trillion of financing to fossil fuel companies since the signing of the Paris Climate Accord in 2015. Among European banks, Barclays was found to have provided the most financing, arranging £70.6 billion of loans and bonds for the world's largest oil and gas firms last year, despite promising to cut its carbon footprint to net zero by 2050. A poll of 10,000 National Education Union members has found 98% are against extending the school day and shortening holidays to help recover learning time lost during the pandemic. Instead, 82% called for flexibility in the curriculum, 68% said pupils needed more opportunities for sport and exercise, and 66% said creative and practical learning should increase. Only 21% agreed that the government's promised tuition programme was important in making up lost teaching time. NEU Joint General Secretary Mary Bousted has urged ministers to listen to the education staff who have been on the front line during the pandemic. It is their insights on what has worked best that should be taken forward, she said. Meanwhile, the Education Secretary has called for a crackdown on pupil behaviour after claiming long periods spent in lockdown had impacted discipline. Writing in the Daily Telegraph on Wednesday, Gavin Williamson said a ban on mobile phones would be key to improving behaviour. Responding, the ASCL School Leaders Union said most heads already restrict phone use and wouldn't appreciate government lectures on the issue. A new study from the University of Oxford has found survivors of COVID-19 face an increased risk of developing mental health and neurological disorders, such as depression, dementia, or psychosis. The study examined 236,000 COVID patients' health records and found 34% were diagnosed with a neurological or psychiatric condition within 6 months of catching the virus. It also indicated that the worse the infection, the more likely patients are to suffer from such disorders, with diagnoses rising to 39% among those hospitalised with COVID-19 and 46% among those in intensive care. The study's authors said further research must be urgently undertaken to understand why these disorders occur and how they can be treated. Hundreds of Deliveroo drivers went on strike on Wednesday to demand higher pay and improved working conditions. The action follows a survey published in March showing some couriers earn as little as £2 an hour. The striking drivers are calling for a guaranteed living wage after costs, as well as holiday and sick pay. The food delivery firm has insisted the walkouts are being organised by a small union that does not represent the vast majority of riders. Meanwhile, the firm's shares rose more than 2% to 288p in early trading on Wednesday. However, they remain well below last week's float price of 390p after investors expressed concerns over Deliveroo's working practices. Police have confirmed that a body found in a lake in Epping Forest is that of missing university student Richard Okoroghe. The 19-year-old disappeared after leaving his home in West London on the 22nd of March. He was last seen in CCTV footage recorded in Loughton, Essex, during the early hours of the 23rd of March. On Monday, specialist divers found the teenager's body in a lake in the nearby Epping Forest. Police say the student's death is being treated as unexplained and they do not believe anyone else was involved. The 19-year-old's mother, Evidence Joel, has spoken of her devastation following the discovery. She previously said her son had been struggling to cope while shielding during the pandemic. Penguin Random House has said it will not hand back furlough cash it claimed in lockdown, despite recording strong sales. A spokesman for the UK's biggest publisher confirmed it would not be returning the funds on Monday, saying, "We have used the government's furlough scheme for its intended purpose, to protect jobs during this extraordinary time." Penguin is believed to have claimed about £1 million via the taxpayer-funded scheme, despite its owner, German media giant Bertelsmann, recording a €3.8 billion jump in global revenue last year. Firms are not obliged to repay the cash, but have been encouraged to do so if they can afford it. The head of mental health at NHS England has spoken out in favour of taxing gambling firms to fund addiction treatments. Claire Murdoch said online gambling companies had cashed in during the pandemic, while the NHS had increasingly been left to pick up the pieces. She has criticised the existing voluntary system for allowing the industry to decide on its own contributions towards helping addicts, and instead backed a compulsory levy to fund treatment. While the government has distanced itself from suggestions of mandatory levy in the past, the measure is now being considered as part of a review of the sector. The NHS has announced plans to set up 26 mental health hubs for new expectant or bereaved mothers in England. Due to open by next April, the sites are expected to serve around 6,000 new parents in the first year. They will allow mothers to access both physical health checks and psychological therapy in one place, as well as providing training for maternity staff. Dr. Giles Beresford, the NHS National Specialty Advisor for Perinatal Mental Health, said, "We know around 1 in 4 women experience mental health problems in pregnancy and during the 24 months after giving birth. These services will provide vital support, meeting the specific needs of these women." Sales of electric and hybrid cars boomed in the UK last month, despite an overall slump in motor trade during the pandemic. According to early data from the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders, Brits bought a record 22,000 electric cars and 17,000 plug-in hybrids in March. As a result, combined sales of greener vehicles made up 13.9% of the market, up from 7.3% last year. While overall motor trade remains depressed, with March sales figures down 37% on averages recorded between 2010 and 2019, the surge in electric and hybrid purchases demonstrates growing demand for cars with lower carbon emissions. Ofcom has introduced new rules requiring broadcasters to take better care of reality TV contestants' mental health. The changes mean broadcasters must now take due care over the welfare of those who might be at risk of significant harm as a result of taking part in a programme. The rules also state that TV or radio participants must be informed of any potential welfare risks before they appear on a show. The watchdog said the reforms were aimed at protecting vulnerable people and those not used to being in the public eye. The changes come after 3 people associated with the show Love Island, including presenter Caroline Flack, died by suicide in recent years. Foreign holidays are at risk of becoming the preserve of the wealthy, according to airline bosses. Speaking to the BBC on Tuesday, EasyJet chief Johan Lundrum said the government's plans to introduce mandatory pre-departure and post-arrival COVID-19 testing, paid for by travellers, risked only reopening international travel for people who can afford it. Lundrum's concerns have been echoed by Heathrow chief John Holland-Kaye, who warned that the proposed PCR testing would make overseas holidays prohibitively expensive. Responding on Tuesday, the Prime Minister insisted that any testing regime for travel would be made as flexible and as affordable as possible. The actor Paul Ritter has died at the age of 54. In a statement on Tuesday, Ritter's agent said he had died peacefully at home with his family at his side on Monday night. He had been suffering from a brain tumour. The 54-year-old appeared in TV shows, including Channel 4 comedy Friday Night Dinner and award-winning drama Chernobyl, as well as films such as Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince and Bond movie Quantum of Solace. Friday Night Dinner writer Robert Popper paid tribute to the actor, saying, "Devastated at this terribly sad news, Paul was a wonderful human being and the greatest actor I ever worked with." The Wildlife Trust Coalition has raised £8 million for 10 projects aimed at restoring natural environments in England and Wales. The plans include transforming a former golf course in Carlisle into a bee and butterfly oasis, restoring 38 hectares of heathland in Worcestershire, and reviving Ice Age ghost ponds to support rare wildlife in Norfolk. The campaign aims to help recover nature across 30% of land in England and Wales by 2030. Veteran naturalist Sir David Attenborough, who has backed the plans, said if given a chance, nature is capable of extraordinary recovery. The Chief Constable of Avon and Somerset Police has announced he is stepping down after the force faced criticism over its handling of Black Lives Matter and Kill the Bill protests. On Wednesday, Andy Marsh confirmed he would be leaving the post at the start of July. Marsh, who took on the role of Chief Constable in 2016, said it would be a wrench to leave Avon and Somerset Police and described leading the force as the honour of a lifetime. The decision follows claims that officers in Bristol were too aggressive when policing recent protests against the government's new police crime sentencing and courts bill. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex have announced the details of their first Netflix show. The series, titled Heart of Invictus, is the first to be made under the royal couple's multi-million-pound deal with the streaming platform. It will follow injured servicemen and women from around the world as they prepare to compete in the 2022 Invictus Games. The competition was founded by Prince Harry and first took place in London in 2014. The upcoming series will be produced by the pair's Archewell Productions company and is expected to feature Prince Harry on screen. Elsewhere in the world, North Korea will not take part in the Tokyo Olympic Games this summer due to concerns over the COVID-19 pandemic. On Tuesday, the country's National Olympic Committee said North Korean athletes would not be competing to protect them from the world public health crisis caused by COVID-19. It is the first country to drop out of the postponed event, which is now scheduled to begin on the 23rd of July. South Korea's Unification Ministry has expressed disappointment at the decision and said it had hoped to use the Games as an opportunity to foster peace and reconciliation between the two nations. More than 150 people have been killed after a tropical cyclone hit Indonesia and East Timor on Sunday. Cyclone Seroja triggered flash flooding and landslides from Flores Island in eastern Indonesia to East Timor. Dams in some areas overflowed, leaving thousands of homes submerged. At least 130 people have died in Indonesia and 27 have reportedly been killed in East Timor. A spokesman for the Indonesian Disaster Mitigation Agency said debris had hampered search and rescue efforts, with the head of the East Flores Disaster Agency adding, "We suspect many people are buried, but it's not clear how many are missing." Minneapolis Police Chief Medira Arredondo has told the trial of Derek Chauvin that he saw no justification for the former officer's use of force against George Floyd. Floyd, a 46-year-old black man, died after Chauvin knelt on his neck for 9 minutes during an arrest last May. Chauvin has been charged with second-degree murder and manslaughter and third-degree murder in connection with his death. On Monday, Arredondo, the US city's first black police chief, told the court that Chauvin's actions were not in line with police protocol and showed a disregard for the sanctity of life. It is extremely rare for a police chief to give evidence against one of their former officers. His testimony came after the medic who tried to save Floyd's life told the trial he most likely died of asphyxiation. Dr. Bradford Langenfeld said he believed cardiac arrest was brought on by lack of oxygen and not by a drug overdose, as has been claimed by Chauvin's defence. And in positive news, Chadwick Boseman has triumphed at this year's Screen Actors Guild Awards. The late star, who died of cancer last year at the age of 43, won Best Male Actor for his performance in the 1920s drama Ma Rainey's Black Bottom at the online awards ceremony on Sunday. Boseman was one of 4 actors from ethnic minorities who won across the 4 major actor categories for the first time, with Yoon Yoo-jun winning Best Supporting Female Actor, Daniel Kaluuya Best Supporting Male Actor, and Boseman's co-star Viola Davis winning Best Female Actor in a Leading Role. The operator of Britain's energy system has revealed it reached its greenest ever point at lunchtime on Easter Monday. The National Grid Electricity System Operator said sunny and windy weather and low demand for power meant low-carbon energy sources made up almost 80% of Britain's energy. Almost 40% of this came from wind power, 21% from solar sources and 16% from nuclear, pushing the amount of carbon pollution per unit of electricity consumed to its lowest ever level by 1 p.m. on Monday. And finally, the family of Captain Sir Tom Moore has unveiled plans for a charity challenge to mark the late veteran's 101st birthday. Moore, who died in February after raising £39 million for NHS charities, would have turned 101 on the 30th of April. His family said they aimed to turn his birthday weekend into a fundraising celebration, with people encouraged to take up their own challenge around the number 100, such as scoring 100 goals or baking 100 cakes. His daughter, Hannah Ingram Moore, said, "This is to ensure that that message of hope is his lasting legacy."
Curious or confused about skincare? The Inky List are here to give you simple answers on the right ingredients for your skin. For personalized advice on your skincare questions or skincare needs in your AM or PM routine, we have skincare advisors ready to chat with you at #AskInky 24/7, 365 days via live chat at theinkylist.com or DM on social at The Inky List. The Inky List believe that knowledge powers change. #AskInky now to achieve your skincare goals.